How's it going, folks? It's Juno here. I've got a whole host of talking points with you today. Whole host of them. I'm going to forget most of them. I'm sure of it. But the first one I want to talk about is this screen I'm looking at here. Arguments versus explanations. I got a bit to say on this from a personal level. How I've convoluted the two over time. It's caused me no end of problems. I'm sure you understand. Another talking point I want to address at some point is going to be cats and cucumbers. Cats jumping away from the cucumbers when they see them. We can draw our own kind of conclusions about why this happens, but it's not something that we really normally see them do. So it seems to be something deep, hardwired in them, something on their in their operating system. Or some sort of programming that's way back, but still obviously produces a huge effect when it's triggered. Does that have any implication for us? Is there stuff we've got in there that's like that? That's something that we never use anymore, but if it was triggered, it would absolutely be like irresistible. We'd just immediately do something, or it'd be very easy to use it in some way if people knew. Yeah. Oh, another talking point I wanted to address. Chess, right? So chess is a very simple game. Like, we've tried to pretty it up over time, making pieces nice, making the board nice, changing the format slightly. But it's a very simple game essentially, and you can play it with very simple pieces on a very simple board if you wanted to. However, in the world today, we kind of set ourselves similar chess-like challenges, but we pretty it up a lot. Maybe to the point where maybe the chess part of it is almost completely lost. The strategy itself is sort of secondary to the triggering of events. So in games, for example, if it was a game of strategy, if it was a computer game, you would do something and then lights would go and then some sound would go and some interesting animation would take place, and you would feel very rewarded for your completing of a simple task. And I'm curious to know, like, where on that scale is the optimum? So where on that scale is the optimum of like reward to what you've actually done? And is it maybe that you should internalize the reward entirely? There should be nothing beneficial in and of itself in that moment for completing something, but internally you should recognize the benefit to you of like developing strategy or finding solutions, or where at what point does a pat on the back become damaging? That's something I want to give a thought to. And finally, actually not finally, the thing we will start with. All right. So I used to be into a bit of fitness. As a younger man, I used to go to the gym a lot. I used to do some MMA related stuff. And I realized once that when I was sort of shopping around for gear, when my stuff was starting to wear out, I suspected that there was something a bit off. And let me just clarify for you what that was. So this isn't unique to this industry. I think this happens a lot across a lot of industries. I think the internet has enabled it to happen. But what it is I like to think of it as kind of dual representation. So let's say you have a marketing strategy, and the marketing strategy is that you want to entice people with low prices. My prices are always low. I've got low prices. All right, come in. You know you're going to get from me the lowest price in town. All right, okay. Well, we've all seen this market strategy. Does it work? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it gets a bit of reputation as being cheap stuff, and then you decide you don't want to go with that, and you end up spending money justifying to yourself, probably through some more marketing rubbish, that somehow spending more means you got something better. Now, let's say there's another marketing strategy, and this is the marketing strategy of sales. I'm going to put a sale on. Now, this kind of digs into your psyche. It triggers this idea in you that, okay, what they're doing there is they're going to put a sale on, they're going to take a loss on this thing that I want to buy, but then having me in the store might trigger me to buy something else while I'm there, which they'll probably make a profit on, or just drive up some business, or maybe it's name recognition. They're trying to get their name out, so they're doing stuff at a cut rate for a limited time only. Maybe it's a closing down sale. They haven't got any use for this. All these justifications for why something could be priced lower than what it otherwise, in our heads, should, with quotation marks, be priced at. Now let me tell you, right, that when I was shopping around for some jiu-jitsu gear or something, I fell upon this one product that I'd found that I thought, okay, this is the product I want. I began searching specifically for the product, and I found it at a varying array of prices. Like, some were in the mid-30s and somewhere in the 40s and somewhere even in the 50s. And I wondered, how can they justify this? Who in this day and age is going to the place where it costs 50 and buying it? You know, when they can easily find it at 30 or 40. You'd only get the market that was specifically told to go there for a reason, or weren't aware. So in some way they had entered the market but simply weren't aware of the offers, only knew of this one place and then were going to buy from there. Maybe they had a personal relationship in some way. But what occurred to me, alright, is that the ones that are listed as like 40 and 50, quite a big margin above the lowest price ones you can find, even if they're the exact same product, they will be the places that run the sales. And this is the thing, it's the concept that you garner from being there, that the sale is exclusive, you are somehow being rewarded for your fastidiousness of finding it and looking for it, being very adept at this specific activity of like gathering. Like you're gathering the information and trying to find the exact one. And it's a con. It's a fucking con. Like, it's just not real. They're the same company. They're the same company. And I found this one example, but I've seen it in other places. When I go out and I do buy a game or something, and I do find it one place cheaper, one place more expensive, and then I start realizing there are similarities between it, albeit nowadays that's much harder to spot. They've realized that people are cottoning on, so they changed the format and the look of what's going on, so it's harder to see that they're the same company. But yeah, what they're trying to do, you see, is I'm sorry, let me not say this as a fact. Let me say this as my belief, something I believe I have some level of evidence to support, but I'm not saying it's the entirety of the story. But let me show you my short form conclusion, which is they are attempting to, with minimal cost, invoke as many separate concurrent marketing strategies as possible. Some of those marketing strategies are exclusive, so the way they support them and pursue them is by setting up similar looking shop fronts distinctly, discreetly, and separately. And I think this is, okay, maybe you could say that's kind of clever, but the truth is you'll always end up paying the same. It almost doesn't matter. As long as you're buying from that one company, as long as you're using the facility in the way they've predicted you'll use it, you almost always end up paying the same. In the term of the shop that does the sale, if you ever buy at full price, that's just a benefit to them. They don't predict anyone will do that, but should they, there's a residual benefit for them that somebody actually did that. They didn't go for the cheaper option. Alright? The actual normal price is nothing to do with the price they calculate that you're going to actually buy at. They're expecting a negotiation of sorts where you wait for a sale. You're just waiting for the price to drop. And then they hit you with the sale, and you're appealed to by the percentage of the sale, the huge savings. That's what's bringing you in. That's a separate marketing strategy from always low prices. Always low prices is, I'm doing this for a reasonable margin, but, you know, it's not ridiculous. However, that does never attract someone who wants a sale, because in the perfect world, what the person wants is they want to go to the cheap place that is having a sale. That's the mentality they're trying to achieve. I want to be at the cheap place that's having the sale, so I get the real deals. The deals that actually are impressive in some way, or I can justify to myself as being, I made a good arrangement. Pat yourself on the back, I suppose. Of course you want to believe your resources will go further, so you do try to get a good deal. It's very simplistic logic, but it's utilized by these systems that will put up 2 shop fronts or more. I'm not saying that, but the reason that I actually have the screen up the way it is, and I'm not sure if I cut out the URLs, but if I have, that's fine. You can obviously tell who it is from the logos and stuff. You can see these are very different formats, okay, between the 2 shop fronts. These are very different formats. And you could be convinced that these are 2 separate companies. And I wouldn't blame you. When I discovered this was years ago, when they didn't include this strategy, alright? When they just had 2 similar shop fronts, different names, different prices. All the resources they utilized were exactly the same. All of the stock images and everything else, they were all the same. It was simply the prices and the name that was different. But they've developed a bit more since then, okay? Now it's a little more difficult to see what's going on because they've gotten on to people doing this. But there's still some elements. Still some elements where they are using the same resources for cost cutting, excuse me. like if you start going through the actual categories, the categories actually look very similar. All right, you can see that there are similarities here. Someone it has utilized the same resource for multiple purposes. And then if you were to go into, let's have a look. If you were to go into some of the details, maybe let's just look at actually some of the stock images. So what do we want? Okay, so look, even the words, right? The words here are being used similar to describe what's actually being sold. So that's again specific terminology. They're utilizing it the same. Come on, give me that. And then look, all right, now we're onto the images. Images look a little bit different, but it's similar style. Okay, let's see if there's do they have shared stock? Yeah, shared stock. And look, when you look specifically at the stock itself, then you see the shared image resource as well. So they're using it. I wonder. Okay. There. Alright, so do you know what? They have actually uploaded it twice. Interesting. I was curious that actually they would be running off the same server. It doesn't look like they are. So they've made a bit of an expense there to do that, to actually upload them to separate servers, when they could have doubled up on that and saved a tiny amount of money. But you think about the expense of all of the resources they use on the website, that could end up being something. But anyway, and you could still be doubting me. I understand. You might still be doubting me. Same products, alright? Some of the same stuff. I see this one is a bit different. They want you to sign in to buy, so that then you have to have an account to even view the price, which is kind of interesting because they're viewing it. This is again a sort of different marketing strategy where you're a member. It's like the Costco strategy. You're a member of our group, therefore you get exclusive prices. It's all psychology, of course, but interesting nonetheless that it's applied in this way. Yeah, okay, so let's go. So you can see two different places, right? But let's take a look, see if they're registered under different addresses. Where's their... Alright, so how about this, eh? No. No, they're under the same address. So they're under the complete same address. That, again, they've made a cost-cutting measure there. They've not decided to do different addresses for the two different shop fronts. Like, so to call it a deceit, I think, is too extreme, because nobody's claiming that that you can't have two names for something if it is, if there is some genuine differentiation, even if the source is similar. So maybe saying it's a lie to have two names for a company, yeah, that could be a bit too extreme. But what I'm saying is, if it is a facade in the sense that it's a front of something, it's a facade, it's only skin deep, right? It doesn't have, they aren't two different buildings, because facade is like an architectural term. It is not two different buildings, it is the same building. It just has a facade, alright? One side has this facade, the other side has that facade, the interior is the same. The interior is the same. It only goes so deep, alright? And that's kind of, again, too strong a word to use, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. That's the length of the deceit, is what is happening. You're sort of being deceived, because it's not open and honest about, listen, we are actually the same company, we just have different shop fronts for different marketing strategies. But it's economical, right? You could never have done this with a physical store. You couldn't have. You couldn't have had a physical store open-ended at both ends, but two shop fronts, and then in the inside it's the same. That would have been ridiculous. No one would have bought into that, and it would have made managing the two separate marketing strategies extremely difficult, because it would have been in view of the other people, the other customers. They would have seen one people would be marketed one way, another people would be marketed another way. They would have both realised, okay, this is just psychology. No, there's no actual difference here. So, yeah, there you go. It's something. It's not just this. Like I said, it's not just this. You could go to other things. I could make other examples. There's no need for me to. But, there are other examples out there of different storefronts. It's economical, but it's not particularly honest. And it's all about just marketing strategies. And if you can do this with stores, if you can do this with e-commerce, what the hell else do you think they could do it with? Right? How long have people been saying that, you know, it's just 4 media companies, it's just 5 media companies, all the media is all really the same, it's just all about psychology. Here it is. Here it actually is. You know what? This was such a good. I went on this video so long. I'm actually going to cut it and just make separate videos about the other 2 subjects. They'll be coming right up. So if you want to catch them, they'll be unlisted on my YouTube for a while. I might list them eventually, but this is just the beginning. Hope you enjoyed it. See you around, guys.